In this video, we're going to walk through problem 7-21, assigning cost to jobs. We're given some partially completed T accounts and some additional information for Cardinals Inc. for the month of November. So we're given balances for materials inventory, work in process, finished goods, cost of goods sold. We've got our overhead control and our overhead applied account. Then we're given some information regarding our labor wage rate, our manufacturing overhead or predetermined overhead rate, sales revenue, and some selling and admin costs. The first thing we're asked to do is, what is the cost of direct materials issued to production during November? Materials issued to production would have come out of raw materials inventory, and they go into work in process as direct material. So the answer to that first question is the $96,000. Our next question is, how much manufacturing overhead was applied to production during the month of November? We're going to need to go through a two-step process to calculate this. First thing we have to do is calculate the direct labor hours because we're applying manufacturing overhead on the basis of direct labor hours. So we can take the $30,000 in direct labor cost divided by our labor wage rate, and we will get 3,000 hours. We next multiply that 3,000 hours by our predetermined overhead rate of $24 per direct labor hour, and that gives us $72,000 for manufacturing overhead applied. And of course that gets recorded as a credit to manufacturing overhead applied and a debit to work in process. Next question is, what was the cost of products completed during November? Well, the cost of products that are completed, they would have been transferred out of work in process into finished goods inventory. We can see the cost of the goods completed is $180,000. Question D, what's the balance in work in process inventory at the end of November? We need to add up all the debits, subtract off the credits, and we see an ending balance of $138,000. Our next question, question E, asks, what was the over or under applied manufacturing overhead for November? We had actual manufacturing overhead, which we record in the manufacturing overhead control account of $78,000. Our applied manufacturing overhead is $72,000, and of course the difference between those two is $6,000. So we had $6,000 of under applied manufacturing overhead. And of course that under-applied manufacturing overhead would have made work in process too low, finished goods too low, and eventually cost of goods sold too low. Next we're asked, what is our adjusted cost of goods sold? Well, we need to pick up our cost of goods sold. And our cost of goods sold will be any cost or merchandise transferred out of finished goods inventory. And we see a credit to finished goods inventory for $120,000, which means we would have had a debit or transfer over to cost of goods sold of $120,000. And of course, manufacturing overhead was underapplied, and we would close that out at the end of the period if we didn't prorate it directly to cost of goods sold. And again, the thought is actual overhead was 78, we applied 72, that meant work in process was too low by 6, finished goods is too low by 6, which ultimately means cost of goods sold is too low by 6. Which means then our adjusted cost of goods sold will be $126,000. And our last question is, what's our operating profit? Our operating profit will simply be our sales minus cost of goods sold minus our selling and admin expense. So $270,000 in sales minus $126,000 in cost of goods sold minus $43,000 in selling and admin costs.